Welcome back to the channel. This is part 15 to the road to becoming a Pokemon champion. Chapter 15, The Hidden Village. The group knew that it would still be a while before they reached Vermilion City. It was still a good 3 weeks away, in fact. With as long as they would be away from any major cities, it was times like this that the group was thankful to have Brock with them. Thanks to his abilities to read a map and cooking skills, everyone knew they were in good shape. After they left Cerulean City behind them, the group had decided to have a nice rest after all that happened. They camped a few of days outside the city and used that time to just relax. They played games with their Pokemon, slept in, and just enjoyed the scenery and bonding time with their Pokemon. The days to relax were over now, and it was time to start heading towards Vermilion City again despite the distance. The group figured, since it was still a while before they would get there, it would be a prime time to catch some more Pokemon. Let's see, this forest doesn't seem to have anything interesting in it aside from some wild Pokemon. If any of you are interested, I see no reason to stay here for any longer than necessary, Brock muttered as he read the map. The rest of the group nodded as they continued to walk. While they were wandering through the forest, they noticed an Oddish cross their paths. Oh. It's an Oddish. Cool. Ash said as he and Serena took out their Pokédexes. Oddish, the weed Pokemon. During the day, Oddish usually bury themselves underground to avoid the harsh sun and grows by absorbing moonlight, the Pokédexes said. I think Oddish is so cute. Would you mind if I tried to capture it, Ash? Serena asked. Be my guest. Ash smiled. Alright. Jigglypuff. I choose you. Serena called as she released the balloon Pokemon. The Pokemon did a bow and pose once it came out of the Pokeball. It really wasn't in the mood to battle. To the group's surprise, it began to sing. It had to practice, after all. Wait, Jigglypuff. This is no time to sing. Serena called out frantically, causing the Pokemon to puff its cheeks in anger at her. We promise we will listen to you later, but for now, I need you to help me capture that Oddish. Jigglypuff held its angry look for a second, before it deflated itself and nodded. The group sighed in relief that they wouldn't be put to sleep for the moment. They had enough relaxation the past few days. Plus, there was the fact that Jigglypuff would draw on their faces. Jigglypuff then went over to Oddish, who watched it in confusion. Without warning, Jigglypuff reached over and pounded Oddish on its head. It then followed up with a double slap attack. Jigglypuff figured the sooner Serena could capture the Oddish, the sooner it could perform. Jigglypuff. Wait for my orders. Serena called, trying to get Jigglypuff's attention. Jigglypuff wasn't listening, though, as it continued to slap Oddish continuously. The group groaned at Jigglypuff's antics. Yeah, Serena decided it could still definitely use some training. While Jigglypuff was fine most of the time, when it wasn't in the mood to do something, it was hard to get it to reason. Oddish soon began to cry at the ruthless way Jigglypuff was treating it. It almost felt like it was being punished. All it was doing was walking on its way to get a drink of water. Not to mention, it wasn't feeling that well to begin with. Jigglypuff was about to land the finishing blow for its trainer to catch the Pokemon, but to it and everyone else's surprise, another Pokemon leaped into the clearing and delivered a tackle attack to Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff was knocked to the side and glared at the Pokemon who gave it a sneak attack. The Pokemon in question turned out to be a Bulbasaur. It glared back at Jigglypuff and then glared at the humans and Pikachu for daring to harm its friend. Oh wow. It's a wild Bulbasaur. Ash said in surprise. I wonder if I can capture it. Upon hearing this, Bulbasaur immediately scowled and shot a razor leaf at everyone in the group, causing them to duck for cover. It then picked up Oddish with its vine whip and disappeared into the sea of trees. They both got away, Serena said sadly as she and everyone else stood back up. Jigglypuff then went over to the group and gave them an intense stare. It still expected a mock concert, performance despite Oddish not being captured. The group sighed and got out their tape recorder for Jigglypuff to sing into. It looks like their journey was still going to be delayed slightly longer than they had hoped. At least they wouldn't have to worry about Jigglypuff drawing on their faces. After allowing Jigglypuff to perform and falling asleep due to its voice, the group was finally ready to continue with their journey. It had been about 2 hours since the group had the encounter with Oddish and Bulbasaur, and they hadn't seen a trace of the two. They figured it was best to just forget about the incident and move on. They were now upon an old bridge in the middle of the forest that they would need to cross. They looked over the cliff and saw it was a long way down to the water. Should they fall? Do we really have to cross this bridge? Surely there is another way to cross, Misty pleaded. I don't really like the looks of it myself, Ash agreed. We better try to cross this bridge one at a time. We don't need to put any more weight on here than we need to. I'll go first, Brock volunteered. Brock then began to make his way across the bridge as slowly as possible. The group was watching him nervously from behind. Just keep going slowly, Brock said to himself. Just then, a strong gust of wind appeared from seemingly nowhere, causing the bridge to swing violently. He was beginning to lose his balance. Brock. Hold on. Ash cried out as he saw the danger his friend was in. Brock tried to hold on as best as he could, but the wind was too strong. He soon toppled over the side of bridge as the rest of the group watched in horror. Brock had managed to hold on to the edge, but was struggling. In their panic, Ash, Serena, Misty, and Pikachu had forgotten about how rickety the bridge was. They immediately ran onto the bridge to try to help Brock. Unfortunately, the extra weight was all the bridge needed to snap in half. Brock was sent plummeting into the water below as the rest of the group desperately grabbed onto any part of the bridge they could. Ash, Serena, and Misty were clinging for dear life onto the dangling bridge. Ash had managed to get a hold onto a fully intact part of the bridge, thus, he was able to climb to the ground above. Pikachu rode on Ash's shoulder, so it was safe as well. Serena and Misty weren't so lucky. They had no footing like Ash had, and were holding on to the edge of the bridge as tight as they could. Serena, Misty. Can you guys climb at all? Ash called out to them. The two girls tried as hard as they could, but didn't have the strength to pull themselves up. Ash knew this was a bad situation. If he didn't think of something quick, both girls would soon fall into the water below just like Brock had. Maybe his flying Pokemon could help. Pidgeotto. Butterfree. Go. Ash yelled as he released them. As soon as a Pokemon appeared, Ash gave his commands. Okay, guys. I want you to fly underneath Serena and Misty and help push them up. That way they can get a proper footing on bridge. Ash told them. His Pokemon nodded and immediately went underneath the two girls. They then proceeded to nudge them with their heads to help them up. Because of the push the two flying Pokemon were giving them, Serena and Misty now had the strength to pull themselves farther up the bridge. Once they were within reaching distance, Ash reached out his hand to help them the rest of the way up. Pikachu was attempting to help as well by pulling on their pinkies. Serena and Misty had finally made it back onto the ground above and gave a huge sigh of relief. Ash returned Pidgeotto and Butterfree and sighed with relief as well. However, they knew they weren't all accounted for. Brock. Misty trailed as she and Serena began to sob. They couldn't believe their friend was gone so quickly. Ash, however, got a determined look on his face. Never give up until the end, remember? Brock is still alive. I know it. Let's start by going along the water level to find him, he said. Serena and Misty dried their tears and nodded. They then got up and followed Ash along the edge of the cliff. Pikachu. Can you pick up Brock's scent anywhere? Ash asked it. Pikachu began to sniff the air as it tried to find some sort of lead. Since the open forest was much more refreshing than the air inside Mount Moon, Pikachu was able to pick up on something rather quickly. Its ears perked up, and it signaled the rest to follow it. The group then took off in search of Brock. Ash, Serena, Misty, and Pikachu had been looking for Brock for over 2 hours and still hadn't found him. Pikachu had managed to lead them down to the water bank at the edge of the river. His scent then led from the edge of the water to another part of the woods. The group gave a huge sigh of relief as this meant Brock was surely alive. They just needed to find him now. Brock's scent seemed to be getting stronger and stronger as the group kept following Pikachu. They smiled broadly as they knew it wouldn't be long before they found Brock. Unfortunately, they were so excited they didn't notice the rope that was placed on the ground. The group stepped right into it, which activated a trap. Soon, they found themselves suspended in a net, and it was a really tight fit. "Hey! Who put this trap here?" Ash called out in surprise as they struggled to get free. "I don't know, but get your elbow out of my face, Ash Ketchum," Misty yelled. "Misty, your foot is jammed right into my side," Serena complained. "Choo-hoo," Pikachu choked as it was struggling to find room among the bigger humans. "Hold on, guys. Let's just stay calm and think of a plan," Ash said. "There are no plans. What are we supposed to do? We can't even reach for our Pokeballs because it's so crammed in this net," Misty retorted. It was then that the group heard laughter below them. They looked down to see a Bulbasaur below them. It had a smirk of triumph on its face. In fact, it looked just like the one from earlier. "Hey, Bulbasaur. Could you help us down from here? We are kind of stuck," Ash called out to it. Bulbasaur shook its head as it continued to smirk at the group. It then turned around to walk into another part of the woods. "Hey. Wait. You can't just leave us here," Ash cried out as he watched it leave. "What do you suppose that Bulbasaur's problem is with people anyway?" Serena wondered to herself. "I don't know, but I swear, if Ash doesn't get his elbow out of my face, I'm going to scream," Misty shouted. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu sighed. Not only were they packed like sardines in a net, suspended above the ground, they had to listen to Misty's nagging as well. The group soon heard more footsteps approaching. They hoped that whomever it was, they would be able to help them down. To their great relief and happiness, Brock appeared in the clearing and saw the group. "Brock? You're okay? What happened?" Ash shouted in happiness. "I'll explain in a little bit. Right now, let's get you guys down from there," Brock told them. Brock then noticed a part of the rope that was holding the net up by him. He then reached into his backpack and pulled out a small pocket knife. He cut the rope, which caused the net fell to the ground, where everyone landed with a painful groan, but at least they were free. Brock was then bombarded with questions by the rest of the group. "How did you survive? Where were you this entire time? How did you know where we were? Chew. Chew. Pikachu." Brock motioned with his hands for them to calm down. "It's okay. I'll explain everything," he said. He then put a finger over his lips to signal them to be quiet. Despite the fact they were in the middle of a forest, Brock still made sure no one else was around. "Follow me," he whispered as he turned around to walk off. The group wordlessly followed him. While they were walking through the forest, Brock decided to relate his experience to the group, but still talked quietly. "After I fell into the water, I was carried rapidly down the stream. The current was moving so fast that I was unable to swim at all. I thought I was a goner. Luckily, I was close to the edge of the river and was able to grab onto some rocks I saw in the distance. It was then that the most beautiful girl in the world saw my predicament and rescued me." "A beautiful girl rescued you? Are you sure you didn't just hit your head and were dreaming?" Misty deadpanned. "I was not dreaming. It really happened," Brock defended. "After she rescued me from the river, she could see I had various cuts and bruises. She then led me to a small clearing in the forest to her home, and treated me there. It's then that I decided to search for you guys. While I was walking through the forest, I heard you guys scream. I followed the noise, and the rest is history. I see. Well, we are just glad you're okay, Ash said quietly as they followed Brock. Me too, but why are you telling us to keep quiet? Misty asked. I'm leading you to the hidden place in the forest, where I was rescued. This is a secret place to most people, especially trainers. I don't want to compromise its location in case the wrong people hear about it, Brock replied. The group nodded. It was then that saw a break in the trees ahead. They went through the trees and entered into a small but sufficient clearing which consisted of a pond and log cabin. The group spotted a teenage girl roughly the same age as Brock tending to some Pokemon. Upon hearing the footsteps behind her, she turned around and smiled once she saw Brock. Hello, Brock. Welcome back, she said pleasantly. The group took in her appearance. She was thin and had long blue hair that was tied into a ponytail and held by a large yellow bow. She also wore a red headband on her head and had blue eyes. Brock was right. This girl was relatively pretty, but that was beside the point. Thank you, Brock replied as he and the rest of group stopped a short distance from the girl. Melanie, I'd like you to meet my friends. This is Ash, Misty, and Serena. So you're Brock's friends. He told me all about you, Melanie smiled. That's great. Serena replied. She then noticed the dozen or so small Pokemon that were gathered around the area. So do all of these Pokemon belong to you? Oh, no, Melanie said. This is a place where Pokemon can come anytime they need rest. So is it like a camp? Ash asked. Not exactly, Brock decided to respond this time. Whenever Pokemon become injured or abandoned, they can come here, and Melanie takes care of them. Then they leave when they feel better. I see, Misty said. So this is like a Pokemon Center and Melanie's a Pokemon doctor? Oh, no, Melanie giggled. I don't have the qualifications to be a Pokemon doctor. I just take care of the Pokemon that come here. She then went over to pet some of the Pokemon with her back to the group. Melanie collects plants around the village to use for medicine, Brock told them. She knows all about what type of plants can help which Pokemon. It seems like you both love taking care of Pokemon, Serena commented. We sure do, Brock agreed. He then gave a somewhat longing expression at Melanie while she wasn't looking. Misty noticed this and got a sly look on her face. You like her, don't you, Brock? She asked deviously. Brock blushed and put both his hands over her mouth. Quiet. She might hear you, he whispered harshly. Ash suddenly realized something. So was that net that captured us earlier set by you, Melanie? He asked, but not in an accusing way. Melanie turned around and got an apologetic look on her face. Yes. It was me. You see, I have to protect the Pokemon here, so I must capture trainers before they enter the village, she confirmed. Yeah. I made a promise to Melanie that we wouldn't try to capture any Pokemon while we are here, Brock told them. That's no problem. I can keep that promise, Ash said. Me, too, Serena agreed. It seems like a great thing you are doing here, Melanie. You wouldn't mind to share a few of your healing techniques with me, would you? Ash asked. I'd be happy to, Ash, Melanie smiled. As Ash and Brock went with Melanie into her cabin, so she could show them the various types of plants she used for medicine, Serena and Misty were left to their own doings. Serena looked around and noticed how tranquil this place seemed to be and how happy all of the Pokemon were. She then noticed a Pokemon that particularly stuck out to her who was eyeing her curiously. It was an Oddish. Serena approached the Pokemon and knelt down to be more eye level with it. Oddish seemed to back away slowly as if it was afraid of her. Serena then realized that this must be the Oddish she had tried to capture. No wonder it didn't appear to want to battle. It was trying to recover in the village. Hi, Oddish, Serena said to it. The Oddish didn't say anything and continued to watch Serena closely, wondering if she was going to do anything. I just wanted to say I was sorry for hurting you earlier. It must have frightened you quite a bit. If I had known the situation I would not have attacked you like that, Serena apologized. Oddish lost its curious glance and moved a little closer to her. It sure is a great place here. I can see why all of the Pokemon seem so relaxed, Serena said as she gestured to all the Pokemon in the village, which the weed Pokemon nodded to. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So I hope there are no hard feelings between us, Serena told it. Oddish shook its head and happily jumped into her arms. "Oh, you're sweet, Oddish," Serena smiled as she rubbed its head. "You two sure seem to be hitting it off," Misty commented as she approached Serena from behind. "MMMHMM," Serena answered while smiling. It was then that she and Misty heard a growl in front of them. Serena looked up just in time to see a Bulbasaur charging straight at her. She was unable to get out of the way and was knocked over painfully onto her behind, where she dropped Oddish. The Bulbasaur then stood protectively in front of Oddish. "Ow," Serena muttered in pain while Ash, Brock, and Melanie ran outside the cabin to see what the commotion was about. "Hey. You're that Bulbasaur from earlier. Why do you keep antagonizing us? It sounds like you are asking for a battle." Ash yelled as he pulled out Pidgeotto's Pokeball. Melanie then ran in between Ash and Bulbasaur and spread her arms out, while Brock and Misty helped Serena to her feet. "Please wait," Melanie cried. Bulbasaur was only trying to protect Oddish. "What do you mean?" Ash asked. "This Bulbasaur has been here a while. It's volunteered to be the protector of this village," Melanie explained. "This is a very reliable Bulbasaur. It is always willing to help out any Pokemon in need. Unfortunately, it seems Bulbasaur does too good of a job sometimes. Pokemon feel so safe here because of it, that some of them don't go back into the wild." "I see," Ash said. He then felt pushing, and looked down to see Bulbasaur was pushing against his leg trying to nudge him out of the village. Despite all of Bulbasaur's great strengths, it is very distrustful of Pokemon trainers, Melanie continued sadly. "Then I'm just going to have to earn its trust," Ash told her. "I'm sure when Bulbasaur sees that we mean no harm, it will warm up to us." "I hope so. In the meantime, would you like to continue where we left off with the medicine?" Melanie asked. "Yeah," Ash nodded. He then turned to Serena and Misty. "You guys should come in as well. I think this stuff will be pretty useful for our journey." The two girls nodded and followed the rest back into the cabin. Bulbasaur even decided to follow, if not to at least keep an eye on the humans. It turned out that the group was learning a lot from Melanie. She had showed them the various types of plants that she uses, and what each one does. She even did a few demonstrations of how she turns the plants into medicine for the Pokemon. She then let the group try it out themselves. The group was learning a lot, and figured this would be very useful in case there were no Pokemon centers close by, and they needed to heal their Pokemon quickly. As Bulbasaur watched the group, it couldn't help but be curious about these humans. They were unlike any trainers it had met before. Melanie had been the only human it trusted for a long time, but maybe these ones weren't so bad either. The trainer called Ash especially intrigued it. Pikachu seemed to notice Bulbasaur's stare, and hopped down from its position on Ash's shoulder to converse with it. Pikachu told Bulbasaur about how it was very distrustful of humans at first, as well. It then talked about the first time it had met Ash, and it shocked him. Bulbasaur was especially surprised when Pikachu told it that Ash wasn't angry at all. Pikachu then went on to tell it what a great trainer Ash was, and that it couldn't have asked for a better trainer. Because of him, it was now a lot more accepting of humans. In a way, Pikachu and Bulbasaur were a lot alike. Bulbasaur then looked at Ash again, and decided to test out Pikachu's claim. It went over, and decided to help Ash, by using its vines, to hand him different ingredients that he needed, while making the medicine. "Oh, thank you, Bulbasaur," Ash said gratefully as he accepted the things Bulbasaur was handing him. Bulbasaur smiled as it watched Ash and the rest of the group make the medicine. Once they were done, Melanie asked Bulbasaur if it would like to be the taste tester, to which it happily agreed. It turned out they had done the medicine pretty well. Of course, they weren't as good as Melanie with the exception of Brock, but still perfectly acceptable, especially if any of their Pokémon were in danger. That was pretty courageous of you to try our medicine for the first time, Bulbasaur. I think it's a really great thing you do for this village with how you always stand up for the Pokémon. You would be a great Pokémon for anyone to have, Ash told it, causing Bulbasaur to smile at his remark. Ash, don't you think Bulbasaur would be a great addition to your team? Melanie asked him. What do you mean? Ash asked curiously. Bulbasaur still has a lot of growing to do. Unfortunately, this village is too small for it to reach its full potential. It definitely needs a trainer who is going to take great care of it. I believe that trainer is you, Ash, Melanie said. But what about this village? Doesn't Bulbasaur have to protect it? Ash asked. Bulbasaur has always done a great job protecting this village, and I will certainly miss it, but this would be what is best for it, Melanie replied. Also, Bulbasaur can't stay in this village forever. If it does, so will the Pokémon, as they will be too comfortable. It's when a Pokémon leaves this village in great condition that is most rewarding to me. Please take Bulbasaur with you. I know you won't regret it. In that case, I would love to have Bulbasaur on my team. Welcome to the group. I'm happy to have a brave Pokémon like you, Ash said happily. Bulbasaur, it said happily back to him, before running a short distance away from Ash. Hee. It seems Bulbasaur would like to battle you first, Melanie said to him. I normally don't like battles in this village, but I will make an exception this time. A few minutes later, everyone was standing outside. Ash and Pikachu stood on one end, and Bulbasaur stood on the other. Serena, Brock, Misty, and Melanie stood off to the side to watch. Pikachu had been the one who decided it wanted to battle Bulbasaur. It wanted to show the Pokémon that it was true to its words about Ash being a great trainer. After about 10 seconds of staring at each other, Ash made his move. Pikachu, use quick attack, Ash called. Pikachu sped up to Bulbasaur and rammed into it, which caused the Pokémon to skid back a few feet. Bulbasaur then brought out its vines to grab Pikachu. It then lifted Pikachu off the ground and began to slam it back down. Ash was quickly reminded of this situation when Serena had her battle against Leaf Ivysaur and the strategy she used to get out it. Pikachu, use your Thunder Shock on the vines, Ash shouted. Pikachu nodded and used the electric attack. This created a current which traveled along the vines until shocking Bulbasaur. This startled Bulbasaur enough to where it dropped Pikachu, but it wasn't done yet. It then used Razor Leaf on Pikachu and shot a flurry of sharp leaves at it. Use quick attack to get out of the way, Ash called. Pikachu sped out of the way and appeared behind Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur was quick to turn as well. However, it began to shoot another Razor Leaf at Pikachu. Jump into the air and use Iron Tail, Ash said to Pikachu. Pikachu then leaped high into the air above the Razor Leaf as its tail glowed white. It then began to fall to the ground and slammed its tail on top of Bulbasaur. The Pokémon let out a huge groan of pain as the attack hit. Ash knew he would have to take his chance with the Pokeball. Now before Bulbasaur's special ability, Overgrow, activated. Pokeball, go, he cried as he threw a spare one forward. The ball connected with the Pokémon and sucked it inside. The ball then began to shake back and forth. To Ash's relief, the ball dinged to signal Bulbasaur was successfully captured. Alright. We got Bulbasaur, Ash cheered. Pie Pikachu. Pikachu cheered as well as it made a V shape with its fingers. Bulbasaur, I'll miss you, Melanie said sadly. Melanie had allowed the group to spend the night in the hidden village, since it was getting late in the day, to which the group was glad to accept. They had spent the rest of the day playing with the Pokemon, and Ash had concocted a small batch of medicine that he had learned from Melanie to heal Bulbasaur after he had battled it. Now, it was the next morning, and the group was ready to leave to set out on their journey once again. "Thank you for all you showed us, Melanie. It will definitely be useful on our journey," Ash told her. "You're very welcome. I'm just glad I was able to assist even a little with my limited knowledge," Melanie smiled. Bulbasaur said a little sadly as it was outside of Ash's Pokeball at the moment. "Don't worry about a thing, Bulbasaur. We will just fine here." "Thank you for everything you've done," Melanie reassured it. Bulbasaur smiled slightly upon hearing that. "Hey, Melanie. Since Bulbasaur won't be around anymore, I would love to stay here and take care of the village with you," Brock said sincerely. "That is a very kind offer, Brock," Melanie smiled. "Really?" Brock asked hopefully. "But I wouldn't want to keep you from your dreams. You should continue to follow your goal to be a Pokemon breeder," Melanie finished. "Oh yeah. Of course," Brock said, but the group could tell he was disappointed. "Well, goodbye, Melanie. Thanks for everything," Ash said as he and the rest of the group waved. "Take care of yourselves." "Goodbye," Melanie called as she waved back. Oddish was next to Melanie as she waved goodbye to the group and couldn't help but be a little sad as it watched Serena leave. She seemed like a really nice person and had spent all day playing with it yesterday. "Oddish," it called as it ran after the group. "Oh?" Serena questioned once she noticed Oddish caught up to them. "It seems Oddish has decided it wants to go with Serena," Brock smiled. "Really, Oddish? You want me as your trainer?" Serena asked hopefully, to which the Pokemon nodded. "I think that's a great idea as well," Melanie commented. "I'd love to have you as my Pokemon, Oddish," Serena said gratefully as hugged the weed Pokemon. She then took out a spare Pokeball, and Oddish happily jumped into it to be officially caught. Serena stared at the Pokeball that contained her new friend and smiled. "I guess you two just have a way with befriending a lot of Pokemon," Misty smiled. "Yeah, I guess so," Ash replied embarrassedly, while rubbing the back of his head. What Misty had said was true. Ever since they had started their journey, the majority of the Pokemon they had caught came to them by choice, rather than forcefully captured. It was this knowledge that had them comforted, that they really had their Pokemon's trust and truly belonged as Pokemon trainers, even though a couple, especially Jigglypuff, could listen a little more. Despite that, their journey was still at the beginning and still had many great things to come.